I don't think we should. If we're gonna get like a third person, we should just have a third mic ready. Set up.
We only have 2 channels, so yeah, for now I think we'll just have to do like stereo.
Okay. I mean, I'm fine with that, as long as it, because I'm not dealing with that shit.
Yeah.
When I edit, I just, cool, sounds good, whatever, just put it in. Anyway, welcome back to 2-Star Radio. What the fuck did I just say?
2-Star Radio.
I'm already too drunk. Welcome back.
5 stars.
Yeah, 5 star, 2 out of 5 stars. Because that's all we are right now. Welcome back to Red Star Radio. Today we have a special guest. Do you have a pseudonym that you like to use, or you want me to just use your real name?
Nah, you can use my real name.
All right.
Yeah.
Cool. We have Donald Quarter, who lives in East, and that's his address. He is a reporter for RT.
I don't live in anymore, though. I live in Moscow.
There we go. Yeah, he's a reporter from Moscow, worked for RT. He and I were good college buddies. We were in, the Socialist Alternative, and then it became the USSR, and then it beccame AMLU.
All Marxist-Leninist Union.
Yep.
That was a good one. Still around.
Although I went to one of their first club meetings this semester, and like I told you, it just became a book reading club. It's become the very thing we swore to never become.
Well, you know what I was thinking about this a couple months ago, about what the potential of that kind of university organization could have been, and I don't think it's that bad that it became a book club. It's not like a revolutionary party was going to come out of a university.
College.
So at least there's a place called the All Marxist-Leninist Union where people are reading radical books and discussing it. There's no problem with that, I think.
It is true. Yeah, I just feel like that's the inevitable conclusion of like all radical groups. It's like they start like, oh, we're gonna change the world, and then it just turns into, let's just read what needs to be done for the 50th time.
Well, that's what people like us are around here for, to change that for the future.
True.
Because there's a lot of work that needs to be done, and a reevaluation of what we have to do.
Mm-hmm.
I'm writing a book right now, actually. I didn't tell you about it.
Oh yeah? What's this book?
It's going to be about basically what imperialism means right now in the 21st century. A bunch of people have already written books like Imperialism in the 21st Century, this and that, blah, blah.
Like Empire?
Yeah, well, imperialism, like 100 years ago, Lenin wrote Imperialism, the highest, the last stage of capitalism, highest stage, I don't remember exactly. And he talked about how, we're living in this imperialist stage of capitalism where monopolies are taking over the world. Financial capital is taking over, basically pulling the rug out from underneath industrial capital. And obviously in our world that a lot of that stuff has come to fruition, but it's gone even farther than Lenin anticipated. We've actually come to a situation where the productive process has even been detached from first world countries and been put in third world countries like Bangladesh.
Yeah, so like the manufacturing abilities of the countries. Okay.
Yeah, exactly. So it's going to be about that, but also like about the postmodern cultural and philosophical environment of
like the effects
the first world.
Like the effects of all these changes, what happens, like the sort of psyche of the average person. Yeah,
because basically we've come to sort of a situation where the capitalist classes of the Western world have tried to bribe the working classes of the first world into allowing this to happen with lower prices from the hyper-exploitation of the third world. So the point of the book is to put that in layman's terms so people can understand it. So it's not just another academic work.
Yeah, I mean, it was the one thing that I've learned after coming out of university and trying to sort of enact change is that the moment you start using like big academic sounding words like dialectics, like people's eyes just glaze over, just like that, and you just lose them instantly. So you have to, you shouldn't baby them
Yeah.
which obviously, talk about complicated ideas and stuff. I mean, Ho Chi Minh was having his soldiers read Lenin and Marx when they were still fighting in the rice field, motherfucker. But you should still be able to sort of explain to them in terms that they can understand, and then give them the harder stuff, sort of scaffolding it.
Yeah, of course. It's just, I think the main problem in leftist circles in the first world is that they become so focused and absorbed in intellectual circles, and that's the problem. Writing books, analyses of capitalism and stuff that people who are not communists can't even understand. And then what's even the point of that?
Yeah.
It's a little clique.
Communists are supposed to go into the working class,
They just sort of live in their little ivory tower.
Yeah.
Of purism. I think that's the best way I like to say it. Like, I have the best version of communism. And if everybody just listened to mine and did perfectly to what I say,
if you just read the damn book, everyone will be happy.
As long as everyone just agrees with what I believe, then we'll just magically have communism, which is basically what Trotsky and Social Alternative and DSA and all those other groups believe.
Yeah. Well, that's why I went into journalism, and I work at RT now. It's a great place for me to understand how to better, put ideas into the media, and also for a platform for me to start my own videos where I can talk about communist theory, but also about contemporary topics involving this. Like how America uses imperialist tactics against Russia, against China, against North Korea, all this stuff. And I think right now the best I can do is be a soldier in the information war, until we have an organized political party and movement and everything. But that's basically a pipe dream right now.
Yeah. Well, we have to. Everything starts small.
Yeah.
The Black Panther started off by selling weed. So, I mean, big things come from little things, right?
Yeah.
It's the domino effect.
I think right now the best thing leftists can do for the movement is to make themselves as good a person and educated and productive a person as possible. Until there finally comes a situation where the material conditions are correct, where we can organize, or we can kind of feed off of the anger of the proletariat against some sort of recession, to build a new party. And like a springboard, something like that.
Yeah. Being basically just, ingratiating. I hate that word. Ingratiating is a negative term, but basically ingratiating ourselves within sort of working class circles and getting our faces known, basically being someone that people can trust and look up to.
Yeah.
Look to it for advice.
And make ties with countries that would be friendly to this kind of political agenda, For example, Russia, it's not a socialist country, but the government there is definitely friendly to anti-Western imperialist policies, which is why I like what the government is doing with RT, exposing the kind of shit that the American government does and all that stuff.
Although my fear though with that is that Russia's end goal isn't communism anymore, right? Isn't global communism. Their end goal is to basically screw over America, which I'm all for. Anything that lessens America's power and stranglehold over basically the world's economies and world powers is good. But I'm worried that once, Russia's end goal is once they basically decapitated American imperialism, they hope to just step in and fill in the vacuum. And at that point, we would need to combat Russia. And then, who's going to help us fight Russia then at that point? And it would just be an endless cycle. I think there needs to be a step past that. And we need to have, the sort of class consciousness before then.
Well, I like to think that wouldn't happen with Russia, just because it's not exactly the kind of rabid banker capitalism that we have in the United States. Like in Russia, there's they have a lot of state-owned companies. They have a lot of stuff for working class people that we don't have here. For example, they have free healthcare. That's even I get to enjoy that. They have but not even like welfare stuff aside, they have like Gazprom, like the oil, the state gas company. It's called Gazprom. So the state companies basically control the major commanding heights of the economy, as Lenin called them, like oil, major resources and stuff. So the fact that
didn't the Communist Party even win like 30% of the vote?
Yeah, the Communist Party is the main opposition party in Russia still, and in Moscow, whenever there's elections, there's Communist Party posters and everything all over the city. They run for individual districts and they win.
Yeah, they won a lot of districts recently.
Yeah, they win a lot. They're quite good, and they're in a sort of like political alliance with the government, against imperialism. They're like the main opposition party. So.
Okay, and how do you feel about? Well, as you know, last month I went to China for a quick visit, right? And I saw the sort of the central planning economies. And while I was there, I took the opportunity to talk to people there about the Uyghur situation and the situation in Hong Kong, which is still continuing to this day, right?
That's
and
interesting.
The sort of escalation against China and the Uyghur situation is only increasing. But I want to know, what are your opinions and what do Russians think about China? And before I give what I said, what I think, I want to hear what your opinion is on that situation.
Well, I haven't been all over Russia. I've been in Moscow mostly, and that place is very different from the rest of Russia. But in Moscow, people have a very friendly attitude towards China. They kind of look towards them as their like neighbor whose economy is absolutely skyrocketing. Like it's an example of Eurasian success, basically, in countries that aren't following the Western model of doing things. As for the situation with the Chinese Muslims, I don't know that much about that actually. I was hoping maybe you could say a bit about how.
I'm always happy
about that. Yeah,
to do
because
that.
I just see it in the media. I don't really know where to get information from, but I'm assuming it sounds like bullshit to me. If I'm gonna be
Which
honest.
it is.
Yeah,
It's absolute bullshit.
Yeah.
I can sense a rant. I'm about to start a rant. So
All right, go ahead.
Yeah.
Nicholas Hotler on us again. The guy commenting on our videos about China.
Just take what I said from the first episode and just splice this into what I'm about to say.
Oh yeah, we'll do a little flashback.
Yeah.
All right. But before you go on the rant, I'll just finish about what Russians think.
Yes,
about China,
tell us about Russia.
And then you could go on the rant for as long as possible. I want to hear it. But basically, the fact that China's economy is growing so quickly is very impressive to people in Moscow. And to me, personally, the most impressive thing is that, well, just a disclaimer, I think China is definitely a socialist country. It has markets and everything and even development, but in any country, I think that's developing, that's going to happen.
Yeah.
But the most amazing thing to me is that China's economy has lifted so many people out of poverty.
800 million.
It's incredible what they've done. It's really the greatest feat of poverty relief in the 21st century, 20th and 21st century, rivaled only by the Soviet Union's industrialization in the 1930s. It's really incredible, and you can say whatever you want about China, but when you look at the physical things they're doing, lifting people out of poverty is one of the biggest goals of any. It should be the biggest goal of any socialist country. So
humanism, right?
Yeah.
But yes. So here's my thing about the Uyghur situation, right? First of all, you need a little background about what China is, right? China has 53 minority populations, right?
Yeah.
10 of which are mainly Muslim. So we've got
Mm-hmm.
Turkish, some Kazakhstanians, so on and so on. One of those is the Uyghurs.
And in total, they have more Muslims or they have the second largest Muslim population in the world.
Yeah.
Wow.
And China,
sort of like Iran.
Yeah. China, and China is officially an atheist country. However, religious groups such as Protestants, Muslims, Judaism, Jews, they're allowed within the country as long as their policies, religious beliefs follow the party line, and they don't follow an outside influence, which is why Catholicism is sort of frowned upon in China, because they listen to the Pope and not to the it's an outside influence.
Yeah, as the Protestants in the 1500s called papism.
Papism, exactly. So in China, you can freely practice your religion. So that we have Buddhist temples next to mosques, next to churches, next to Jewish temples. Really, even in China, there is a small Jewish population that came there during the Holocaust. Actually,
Interesting.
they went from to America, and basically America told them to fuck off.
Yeah.
So they went all the way to China, and China's like, bet, all right, come on in. Sure, why not, basically. So they came in there. But, so Uyghurs are one of 10 Muslim populations, and they've been basically in the last 20 or so, 30 so years, since the 1990s really, there's been this rise in radicalism within the Uyghur population, sort of influenced by Wahhabism, brought in from the Middle East. So China's solution to that is this re-education system, basically, where, it is, by American standards, it is a bit, brutal, because they do force people to go to schools, right? Because their solution is that extremism is bred through poverty and lack of education. So what do? We force you to go to school. We teach you trades like mechanics, how to be a mechanic, hairdressers, janitors, all those skills that people, just to get a job, really.
And this is as opposed to the American system where you just drone bomb their family.
Or even more nefarious, just the school to jail pipeline.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, in America, it's
yeah. So they're teaching them these traits, right? And obviously, yes, they are held against their will, but they do get to go home during the weekends, right? And usually the training takes like 4 to 6 months of training.
So like re-education.
Re-education. They teach you Chinese, how to read in Chinese, right? How to read, write, and speak in Chinese, which most of them already do, but just to be thorough. And then they basically send you back home after that, right? Which has helped to de-escalate radicalism within China.
Yeah.
But what happened was that one American on one UN panel, not supported by the UN, basically made a statement that China was imprisoning, I think, 1 million Muslim men, which is basically, at that point, I think that's something like half of the adult male population of Uyghurs in China.
Yeah.
So that all those people have been imprisoned within Chinese concentration camps, and big quotation marks, concentration camps.
Yeah. Well, obviously, when I hear that stuff, it sounds like bullshit.
And it makes sense to the average American listener, because we are so used to Muslim sort of Islamic discrimination within America that someone's saying, "Oh, Muslims are being discriminated against in this other country," we think, makes sense.
Yeah.
So he says that, 1 million Muslims are being detained and sent to concentration camps, blah blah blah, yada yada yada. That gets circulated through sites such as Radio Free Asia. Which is, this heavily Western-based...
Supported by the CIA.
Supported by the CIA and other, Western-based countries. And they say the same thing. American news medias and Western news media uses them as sources. And then, as Grover First says, you say a lie big enough and bad enough times, people just believe it. So they just sort of circulate through and through again.
Yeah.
And that's really how that sort of... the whole thing began. And now it's basically become this whole thing to vilify China within the international scene. Which is complete bullshit, because China, they're like, they're discriminating against minorities, which is complete bullshit, because I am from Inner Mongolia, a province in China which borders Mongolia, and which also is really close to Xinjiang, which is where the Uyghurs are.
Yeah.
And in that province, all public signs, including shop signs and anything else in government buildings, have to have both their text in Han Chinese and Mongolian on it, because we have for indigenous people. Even though most Mongolians today speak fluent Chinese in China, we still have to have both texts, just because we have a significant minority Mongolian population. I went to the National Museum. In there, they had, like the Soviets, they had basically the Chinese in their traditional clothing, and then we had all the different Mongolian minorities in the area. We had displays on basically the essentialness of the Mongolians during the Chinese Revolution. Our first governor of Inner Mongolia was called the Red One, but the title of it is in Mongolian. So the official title for the governor in China is in Mongolian, and it's called the Red One.
Wow, that's pretty cool.
So, and there's national parks dedicated after it. He was a Mongolian, ethnically Mongolian, changed his name to Chinese, but still kept that title. So the idea that China basically is just like gunning down Muslims in the streets is complete fucking bullshit.
Well, I think the kind of stuff they say about the Muslim minority situation in China is this sort of like attempt to somehow hit China with something because they're
just
growing
throwing everything.
They're growing
against the wall.
they're growing so quickly in all areas, like we talked about before. Poverty relief, incredible. 800 million people lifted out of poverty in the past couple decades. Then you have their public transport system, like the fastest magnetic trains in the world are being
faster
built
than
there.
Japan's now.
Yeah, and we don't even have any sort of magnetic trains in the United States.
Trains trying to get to New
barely
York.
have
Yeah, we
trains.
can't even use public transport. I mean, like
In the subway system
it's
in New
ridiculous. And yeah, I know. I can't. That's one thing I noticed. Like in Moscow, they have. In my opinion, I mean, I haven't been all over the world, but the metro in Moscow is the most beautiful metro and most efficient and basically great in every way I've ever seen anywhere in the world.
Look at the quintessential American city. The subways don't even run on time.
Yeah,
you can't
it's
get
ridiculous.
a train. You
These-
get arrested just for riding it.
These-
if you're black.
Yeah, these trains in Moscow, they come, if they're late, they come every 3 minutes, if they're late. If they're on time, they come every minute. Whenever I take pictures in there and post on Instagram, people are like, what museum are you in? I'm like, I'm just in the metro.
No, I was...
It's $1 per trip.
I was in New York City
Yeah.
with my fiance the other day, and we literally just saw rats in the streets.
It's disgusting.
There's a big pile of garbage piled up on the street, and just rats were just running
and
through
then
them.
on like
disgusting.
Mondays and Thursdays you have trash day in New York, and just the stench. The entire city's filled with
It stinks.
rotting milk.
And how
Because there's no alleyways or dumpsters.
And how much are these tickets now? They're like $4.50?
$4.50.
That's unbelievable. Last time I was here, they were $2.75.
Yeah.
I was only here like 2 years ago.
And that's why you have 4,000 kids running around Harlem just breaking shit.
Yeah.
Trying to change the subway system.
And not only that, like I'll show you some pictures later, but when I spent a lot of time in China in my youth, and I remember specifically the very city, Hualte, the city that I grew up in. Yeah, that's how you pronounce it. Close enough. That's all I can ever say.
I'm trying to practice my Chinese.
Hualte.
I'm not even going to try.
But I remember specifically that the roads that the buses drove on were dirt, because I remember every summer when the buses were driving, dust were just kicked up everywhere. Right?
Yeah.
The clouds, the skies were dark and foggy, and because of all the smog. And I came back just this summer, and the roads are paved. Everything is clean and modern.
Yeah.
People don't even use cash anymore or credit
Yeah.
cards. They use WhatsApp or
Their phone, yeah.
Weixin, which
Yeah.
WeChat. They just use their phones to pay for everything
Same in
now.
Russia, yeah.
The buses, the trains. Oh, they're building a subway now.
Yeah.
In the city for the first time.
Yeah, and you have cities like the size of New Brunswick that have subway systems. And you look at Tibet, one of the places that are described as being oppressed by China. They, 10 years ago, it was a 15 to 16 hour bus ride to get to Tibet, to the local provincial capital.
Yeah.
Of, it's not Chengdu, I'm trying to remember the name, in southwest China. But now they built airports like 25,000 feet in the air on mountains.
Wow.
And these are like the greatest technological achievements in aviation.
Yeah.
In like the past, since the invention of the airplane, to build these airports that high. And now the transit time from Tibet to the provincial capital, where all the jobs are, is 2 hours. So people can effectively, they actually built these like a means for people to go to work now in Tibet.
I didn't even know about that. I was sold by the time they ousted the Dalai Lama.
They took the slave papers and just ripped them all up.
You can't skin your sleeves anymore.
No more binding women's feet. What a terrible Chinese communist government.
But yeah, I mean, just the poverty increase. I mean, the lifting, the amount of people lifted out of poverty is just incredible. Yeah. And you can still see relics of the old days, just buildings from just 40, 50 years ago. Yeah. And there's this one building I think is my favorite. There are all these lots that are basically these old buildings that still haven't been bulldozed. Mm-hmm. And all of them, and my favorite one is, in the middle of this empty field is this one building, and it's got no plumbing, no electricity, no central heating, nothing. And then right next to it, and that building was built 40 years ago, but then right next to it, massive apartment blocks designed for young people. Nice. And they just build row after row after row of these apartment blocks, and they're being sold as quickly as they're being built. You build one apartment block, instantly sold. Young couple moves in the next day, basically.
And so are these like desert cities? Like like people describe China as just
Hualta is basically like the Midwest.
Well, not deserts like the geographic area, but like deserts like no one lives there. Like in China.
Yeah, like, in America, you have all these empty apartments in New York City, basically where the rich own them and just don't sell them. Yeah. No, these are being sold as quickly as it's being bought. And in the middle of the city, an apartment will be sold for about $200,000 US, and it'll be taken.
It's ironic how in New York City we have all these empty buildings.
And there's homeless people everywhere. Like mountains of homeless people. It's incredible. You know? It's like, you know, even in Moscow, there's not that many homeless people, you know? And there's a larger population. You know, there are some homeless people, but here it's like incredible to see in New York.
Even in like Toronto, there's when me and Lee visited, like there was like 2 or 3 homeless people on the street in like all of Toronto that we saw. And then in New York, you see just lines of them in Times Square.
Yeah, or
in the middle of winter, too.
Walking down Broadway, you just see a homeless person sleeping on the street.
It's like a tent city there.
Yeah, it's unbelievable.
And this is the largest city in America. This is the heart of America, and we still have these problems.
Yeah, and people literally die, you know? Freezing to death on the street in the richest country in the world.
Or, you know, even in our own city here at New Brunswick. Remember, when we worked the homeless soup kitchen, we always hear stories about all the homeless people getting basically forced out of the city, and forced to basically sleep along the riverbank.
Even in Jamesburg, small town New Jersey, there's homeless people.
They just sleep in the woods.
Yeah, and they're like in Walmart.
You know, I've been reading a book. I finished it a couple months ago, actually. I did a video for it on my YouTube channel. It's called A Socialist Defector, and it's by this guy named Victor Grossman, and he was an American, basically. He defected to East Germany in the early 1950s because he was drafted into the military for the Korean War and stationed in Germany, and he lied on this piece of paper where they ask you about your political beliefs, because if you say you're a communist, then you're going to get into trouble. And he was a communist. And they found out he lied, and the military police were coming after him. So he decided to defect to East Germany. And he wrote a book about his experiences there in this communist country. And it's just incredible how there's like the history of the society in these Eastern European countries and the communist Soviet Union and everything. They're like histories that in the West, they want to make sure nobody knows about, because it's incredible how in East Germany, you know, such a poor country compared to just West Germany, let alone the United States, you know, the richest country in the world. And that country didn't have any homeless people, you know. They were able to provide homes for everyone, and you know, there were like shortages sometimes of luxury goods. You know, there's the criticism that they didn't have oranges and stuff like that all the time.
I know is a big criticism, but they had trains.
Exactly. It's like they had everything they needed. Actually, they didn't starve. They had the food they needed. Everyone had houses. There was healthcare, where, you know, they would send you, if you got sick, the government would send you to a clinic to get better, and they'd let you stay there as long as you needed, and they'd give you 90% of your salary while you were staying there. Yeah. You know, it's incredible.
Yeah, and it's like, what's the point of having, you know, all these fancy luxury goods and iPhones and Elon Musk sending his car into space if we have one of the largest homeless populations in the world?
Yeah, and then there's also the stuff they had for just everyday workers, you know, like there were factories. It was the richest country in the Eastern Bloc, and this country had factories that were connected to daycares and kindergartens, so workers with young children could supervise their children. They could go to the factory, which was also connected to a cafeteria, bring their kids to school, go right to work, see them during lunch, have lunch with them. Sometimes even people would go shopping on factory work hours.
And could you imagine? They created like the idea of the apartment block, or they were like the first implemented like you see in New York, the public housing, where you have housing on top, and in the bottom you have shops, schools, and a playground in the middle, or a park. Yeah. And they fully realized that and had people living in them. Yeah. Well-funded, and they were well-maintained.
That's everywhere in Moscow still. That's still the standard. Yeah. It's, Oh, I almost spoke Russian. Apartment complexes on top, and then the stores right underneath.
Yeah.
Exactly like that.
I mean, it's like people don't need fancy things like smartwatches. They need what the Soviets used to say: bread, land, and peace.
Yeah, bread, land, and
They
peace.
just want to be able to know that they have a roof over their head,
Yeah.
food on the table, and that they're not going to get drafted into the next imperialist war.
Yeah.
Which in America we have none of that.
Yeah.
But I think luxuries are good too.
Oh, no,
I
obviously
think
they're
even,
good.
China's starting to prove that you can have all that bread, land, and peace, and also have smart.
Oh yeah, dude, I ate out every day.
Talking
when I
about
was in
Chinese
China.
culture and
You know, Huawei
yeah.
is such an incredible thing too because it's owned by the
Chinese
workers that work
Yeah.
at the company.
which
It's,
company?
Huawei.
Oh,
It's,
Huawei,
It's all the workers who work there share stocks.
Really? I never knew that.
And they get a vote in the decisions of the company relative to the amount of
I'm
stock.
definitely going to buy a Huawei phone.
Yeah, which is also why
They're really cool.
Huawei is completely banned on all U.S. military bases.
Yeah.
Like I was talking to some of my my coworkers in the military, and I was like, "Hey, I'm thinking about buying a Huawei phone." They're like, "You can't do that, otherwise, yeah, you will not be allowed onto base if they find out you have a Huawei phone."
They think the Chinese are spying on Huawei.
A few years ago, someone hacked Fitbit, and then you could see the GPS locations of everyone wearing a Fitbit, and they're running around.
Or even
and then you saw all the CIA bases in like Africa and all the maps.
Yeah.
of
I say expose them.
Yeah, there
Or
are
even
people running around, and it's like Fitbit has this information that's public.
Or even simpler, my buddy was deployed to Afghanistan, and I could like look up his location on Snapchat and just see like his Bitmoji like chilling on a lounge chair in the middle of Afghanistan.
Wow.
I could just see when he goes on patrol.
Wow.
You know? It's super easy.
That's probably where they get all the intel from, anyway. It's just-
Probably.
Well, it just goes to show that it's just a lie to suppress the growth of Huawei. Like Huawei is
It absolutely
growing
is.
so quickly.
Google actually they banned them from using Android. So now in 2 years they have to develop their own OS.
Yeah,
Which is entirely possible.
Yeah, we've done so many stories about that at RT because it's really crazy that they're putting Huawei in this position. You know, because ultimately, in my opinion, I think they want to, at all costs, stop any shining example of success from a socialist enterprise, which is Huawei.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But I just remember when I was in China, right? It was just, people were obviously, they had bread, land, and peace, but they also had, luxury phones, way better fashion and clothing than Americans do.
Well, because they produce American fashion.
They produce it, yeah. Better food, and better, healthier food, and also like I ate out every single day, and people were just inviting me. So what I did was I was like, "Hey, Grandpa, I want to meet communists."
Yeah.
Right. And Grandpa's like, "Bet, no problem." Hooked me up. Met all of his old comrades. They told their kids who were also comrades, and they just took me out to eat.
Nice.
And all these comrades, they all said the same thing to me. All of them said, "All we want is peace and friendship with America." You might be an American, but at its core, you're still a human being. And you're still so therefore you're a friend with us, and you're always welcome in our house. And I think back to what we hear, and even in the news, Chinese news, they always talk about friendship with America and the world and Africa and everywhere else.
Like in Russia, Дружба народов, they used to say in the Soviet Union, which means friendship of the peoples.
There we go. But in America, it's always like China is evil.
Yeah.
Xi Jinping is literally Hitler.
Yeah.
We need to just nuke the whole country. Possible war. America in the last week just launched their second airstrike in Somalia. Right, we're airstriking countries that we're not even at war with.
Obama airstrike them like every day.
Oh yeah,
so.
Obama did the same thing.
Obama's a war
Impeach the
criminal,
Democrats next. After Trump. So it's just fascinating, just how insular America has become. Like, if this was the Hunger Games, we are sent this. Was this fucking sent?
I've never seen that movie, and I never will.
We are the capital.
Yeah,
we're so like isolated from all the other, from the rest of the world, basically. That
We are the High Castle.
the High Castle. Yeah. And it's just fascinating, just how different and xenophobic America really is, and how little freedom we actually have compared to the rest of the world.
We live under an illusion of freedom.
Yeah. Well, another thing going more political about China is that Xi Jinping's administration, I think, is really cool. They've been. I've heard that in China lately, political circles have been really focusing on the collapse of the Soviet Union and how to not repeat that. And it really shows in Xi Jinping's policies, I think, specifically his war on corruption, because I wrote my senior thesis on the collapse of the Soviet Union, and I have really strong feelings about what collapsed it, and I really think it was poor leadership on Gorbachev's part, but
I think it started with Khrushchev, honestly. That revisionism.
Yeah, but the thing that really killed it, was them allowing corruption to get so out of hand, like
which is like stability above all else, basically.
Yeah, and that's really a problem. But corruption within the Communist Party in the Soviet Union was a huge problem because they had a planned economy, and the people in the Communist Party were engaging in black market activity, and it was creating this shadow economy, basically, that Gorbachev was trying to legalize. But the problem was that many shops in the Soviet Union were still run by the state, and in the end there were deficits at the end because the economy was moving to a market, but so many things were still owned. Distribution centers and retailers were owned by the state. It was creating a contradiction between these two economies. But anyway, Xi Jinping is really going hard on corrupt officials in China, and I think that's really necessary. There should be no tolerance for that, especially in a country where the government runs everything. You're talking about a corrupt politician. He's not just like stealing from the government; he's stealing from all of the people of the country.
Yeah.
All of their tax money goes into that. They expect the government to provide for them. And some guy just is going to take the liberty to steal from billions of people.
Yeah. That's why China 2 billion people. That's why China is one of the few countries that executes billionaires.
Yeah.
Or if they don't do that, they basically have them line up. What they like to do is all the new politicians that come in, they take all the ex-politicians and billionaires that basically been found guilty of corruption, and they march them out in jumpsuits, orange jumpsuits, in front of all these new politicians, and basically read out all of their crimes that they committed against the state, and then be like, hey, don't fucking do what these people did because we'll catch you.
Yeah.
We'll fuck you up.
And I know the finance minister now has the entire Chinese government reading Lenin and Mao to refresh their minds on what the revolution is truly about.
Well, it's important
because only under Xi Jinping's administration. So now he's really trying to advance China at that point where they can enact full socialism.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, and even people at the lower levels of the Chinese Communist Party, even at the local level, they still read Mao and everything. Because I remember I went to China and I brought all of my texts and stuff.
Marxist.org wasn't banned, right?
Marxist.org is not banned.
Nice.
I was just
but
reading.
Facebook is?
Yeah, Facebook is banned.
Nice.
Twitter and all that bullshit is banned.
Yeah.
But I remember I was like, oh, have you read Mao's On Practice? And they were like, what? And I was like, oh, wait, I got to translate it to Chinese first. Blah, 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 blah. And they're like, oh, yes. And boom, instant discussion about it. Even at the lowest level, at the provincial, the neighborhood level, they all still know their theory.
That's cool.
And it's just, obviously the majority of the population doesn't give a shit about it.
Mm-hmm.
They just want to live their lives, and that's fine. But as long as you have this vanguard party of dedicated people who know their theory and are willing to basically guide the people.
Yeah, exactly.
I think China in the next 50 years is going to replace America as the world power.
Oh, 100%.
At this rate, America is not going to be able to sustain its position in the world.
Well, Xi Jinping has made it clear that the Communist Party's goal for, I forgot the exact year, I think it's in the 2050s.
2030. They have 2030, and then they have another
for the 2050s, I think, to become a powerful socialist nation. They have already economic plans for that. And what do they call their status right now? A moderately prosperous socialist nation? Yeah.
I believe so.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, and with China, and obviously the Western world know this, and they're doing everything they can to stop China's progress, which is even why the Uyghur Hong Kong situation, why they're trying to stop China hosting the Winter Olympics this year.
They're really doing that?
They're really doing it. They're trying to stop China from doing that. being the host of it.
Speaking of China, have you ever watched CGTN?
Like China TV?
Yeah. In English?
Well, CCTV as well as is their main broadcast, but CGTN is amazing.
Yeah, I've watched CGTN a lot. It's so wholesome. It's like, and you know, it kind of reminds me of what Soviet television used to be like. Like, it's either, I've seen 2 broadcasts. First one was called Playing with Pandas, and it was like an hour and a half long, report where, and I really was thinking about this because, you know, I'm a reporter and I have to do lives sometimes, but my live reports are usually like 1 to 3 minutes, 3 minutes maximum. And this lady, she's a reporter. She had to report for an hour and a half straight live about these pandas in this zoo, and it was so cool. She was like interviewing people, and it was just like an hour and a half of pandas. And then another thing I saw was like, I don't remember what country it was about, but I think it was Ethiopia, and it really reminded me of Soviet television. It was like thanks to Chinese investment in Ethiopian agriculture, corn output has increased 3-fold over the past year. You know, it's just like wholesome reporting on the economic successes of African countries.
I haven't seen the one on Ethiopia, but I did see the one on Sudan.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, China and Sudan are great friends.
Maybe it was Sudan. I just don't remember the country.
Possibly, but they had this whole hour-long segment where they went to Sudan and they went to all the pyramids that are in Sudan. And they're like, look at these wonderful, you know, pyramids that were built over 6,000 years ago.
Yeah.
Wow, aren't they amazing? It was on Chinese TV.
It's so cool. It's just like wholesome stuff about different people.
You know, it's also really funny because the Chinese language is naturally very flowery and, you know, lots of metaphors. So, like, the translation can sometimes be a little awkward. They're like, these pyramids truly show the majesty of the African pharaohs.
The majesty.
The majesty. You know, and like it's obviously just some shitty like pyramids because they're 6,000 years old, so they're gonna look kind of shit. Yeah. They're like in the mysterious desert of Africa. All right, I think we should call a break here.
Yeah, we are at 42 minutes.
42 minutes. There we go, and we'll be right back after this music segment. Now.
It looks like we're recording. I'm going to keep all this in the edit.
And we're back. Okay.
We're back.
Disgusting. All right. What we're talking about doesn't matter. Anyway, so you're back here for Christmas break, right? So, like,
yep.
What's Christmas like in Russia?
Well, they don't really celebrate Christmas in Russia. They kind of celebrate New Year's in the way we celebrate Christmas here. They have, actually, the tradition starts from the Stalin times. Stalin replaced the Christmas tree with the New Year's tree.
The New Year's tree?
Yeah. And so to this day, that tradition still continues, and they celebrate New Year's with presents. Same shit like Christmas in America. They have a Russian Santa Claus named Ded Moroz. It means grandfather of frost, and his granddaughter
Daddy Frosty,
Mr. Father Winter.
His granddaughter Snegurочка.
Snegurочka.
Yeah.
What?
So that's how it is in Russia, and they give gifts and everything. You know, same as here. They do have a Russian Orthodox Christmas, but it's like a religious holiday. You know?
Isn't it in January or something?
Yeah, it's according to the Julian calendar.
Oh yeah, Julian calendar. Yeah.
Yeah. So nobody really celebrates that. It's more religious.
Okay.
As I said before.
And does it have the same sort of materialistic sort of having to buy gifts for everybody culture as America?
Yeah, but it seems more like a family-based holiday, you know? Like it's there's a lot of association with certain dishes that people have at New Year's, and everyone's supposed to come together. They have this like salad called olivier.
Or what's that herring under the fur coat?
Oh yeah, it's delicious. I love that salad. It's like fish under this mayonnaise potato salad shit.
Mayonnaise and potatoes.
And beets and cheese. It's delicious. I love it very much.
Never had it. I guess it just sounds gross because it's like herring under layers of potatoes.
Yeah.
It's like the American palate just sounds really nasty.
You know, it had to definitely grow on me, that's for sure. Because the first time I tried it, I was like, this is disgusting. And then I gave it a couple more tries, and I was like, you know, it's doing pretty good.
Yeah, I'm not gonna lie. The first time I had borscht, I thought it was gross as hell.
Oh, I love borscht. I have it all the time. For me, there's nothing better than borscht on a cold winter day.
Good cold nothing better than borscht.
Good warm borscht.
Isn't that just beets?
It's like beets with beef and potatoes.
So it's a beet stew, right?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah. It makes your poop red. I remember the first time I had it, I thought I was bleeding or something. But it was pretty good, yeah.
All right. Yeah, well, this Christmas, though, we're getting a special gift, which is the Trump impeachment process has gone through the House of Representatives, which doesn't mean anything at all, really, in reality.
I mean, I really don't think he's going to get kicked out of office, especially because it has to go through Senate, and Senate's controlled by the Republicans.
Well, just
Mitch McConnell himself said, like, we're not going to convict Trump no matter what you say, you assholes.
Yeah.
Fuck you, Pelosi.
Wasn't it him that said that he wouldn't judge the impeachment in an unbiased way? Or I think it was Mitch McConnell that said that.
Not that it has to be a 2/3 majority. And we don't control, not we, the Democrats don't control 2/3 majority in anywhere.
Well, the thing is, like, and also I think that the Democrats are still as deluded as they were in 2018 when they thought that they'd be able to get some sort of dirt on Donald Trump colluding with Russia and everything. But they really think that, like, there's no way Trump's going to win the 2020 election.
No, it's just...
I don't support Trump, but I think he's much more popular than they think.
Wait, just like when it was like summer of 2016, people were like, Trump's not going to win because he's a total fucking dickhead. Yeah. But like you saw the populist movement building and you like knew like, Trump has it already.
Yeah, I remember Larry. We had that election party.
The long election party.
Really?
I went to bed early and then I woke up and I was like, I wonder who's elected president.
Dude, I
got home from work and I was like, I knew it. And
I stayed up all night. I was watching the election results and I was like, oh shit, Trump won Ohio. Yeah. I was like, there were only two other presidents, I forget who, but I know there were only two other presidents in American history who won Ohio and lost the election. So basically Trump winning Ohio was it.
Yeah. And even when they won Pennsylvania too, like really early on, like, and you're like, everything's falling in line that everyone said was going to happen. And Paulina was like, you really think Trump's going to win the presidency? Or you're like a Republican? I'm like, no, it's just...
Do you really?
You see, like, everyone's just voting for him. His movement's building. Yeah. Or this consciousness, or this false consciousness of, like...
It was shocking.
America.
I gotta admit, I was duped. I really thought Hillary Clinton was gonna win.
I mean, it follows with the sort of idea of how politics in America works, you know?
Yeah.
But I guess it just goes to show just how, like, it's just how, like, that anger that, like, working class people have in America. Because really, he did win on the backs of working class people.
Yeah.
He promised, all these changes to, which he obviously didn't follow up on. But the point is that they still believed him.
The point is they hated Trump less than the Democrats. Because most, like, 90% of the people realize, or have always known that Trump's the asshat. I mean, Trump's been a figurehead in America and a cultural icon since like the 80s.
Well, I really think the Democrats shot themselves in the foot by sabotaging Bernie Sanders.
Yeah, it's Well, that's really the core of it.
And it's just because the leadership was too, falling behind the times to understand that Bernie Sanders was their only hope.
Well, not only that, it's not in their interest. Even if Trump wins, they still win, right?
Yeah.
Because the Democrats are funded by rich millionaires and billionaires.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's like, it doesn't matter to them which side wins because they're donating to both sides anyway.
Yeah.
So to them, the worst outcome is that Bernie Sanders wins the presidency. And I mean, we're seeing that today.
Well, they did that with the impeachment. Is they just kind of crashed their own plane because with the impeachment, like it's just a constant news feed of Trump advertising his campaign.
Yeah.
So now Trump gets free advertising. He's on TV 24/7 like he's always been. But now it's his movement's ossified where people believe that there's a Democratic scheme against him, or the Democrats are actively trying to oust him from the presidency for their own well-being.
I just think the Democrats are digging their grave deeper. It started with the whole thing in 2018 where they were talking about election meddling in the 2016 elections, saying Trump was a Russian agent. I mean, come on, it's completely ridiculous.
I mean, first of all, the idea that like Russia can, with just paying $50,000 and some Facebook advertisements, could change the course of American elections.
Yeah,
it was
such an absolutely ridiculous idea.
It was like a handful of Russians that were like acting independent of the Russian government, putting out ads on Facebook.
I mean, to be honest, we don't even know what happened because all the Democrats that say, "Oh, we know for a fact that Russia hacked the elections." You ask them, "Where's the evidence?" They say, "Oh, well, the FBI said so." It's like, I don't really trust the FBI so much for anything, really.
No, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, it's all based on just someone with like a Russian IP, which is like so easy to fake.
It could be anyone using a VPN.
Yeah, like
that's it.
I'm a Russian spy because I use Opera.
And
I'm glad to be a Russian spy too.
Yeah.
Hail Putin. But I mean, we're seeing this again happening. In this, even the Democratic primary right now. I mean, just we're just seeing sort of how.
Oh my God, fucking
Pete Buttigieg.
I don't even know who that is.
Oh God, you don't even need to worry about it. He's this no-name governor from Indiana, basically, and the Democratic sort of institution tried to prop him up for like 2 months.
He was third place in 2016 in the Democratic Party.
I don't even remember fucking 20.
Whoever that was, it's Pete.
Dude, Kamala Harris was like supposed to be their golden girl, and then she dropped out, and now they're like, well, maybe Joe Biden will become president.
Well, because
Joe whipping corn cob with the chain at the pool.
Joe touching little girls' Biden.
Licking his wife's fingers on stage.
I thought that was a joke.
Creepy.
The Onion published that
it's
photo.
a real
picture. That's a great Photoshop.
No, dude, when I first started seeing those videos of Joe Biden touching little girls, I was like, is this Photoshop?
Did you see his Wilmington talk? We talk about this on like every episode, but
no.
He was talking about this dude Corn Cob. He was a lifeguard at the pool in Wilmington, Delaware, Blacktown, and he's like, yeah, Corn Cob, you're not allowed to have Pompeii in the pool, so I'm gonna break out this chain link this chain from the pool that we use to like keep people out of the deep end and whip you with it, keep you out of the pool with your Pompeii. He's just talking about like whipping African Americans in the South.
Yeah,
I've seen openly in like 2018.
Yeah, and some of the stuff you said in the 90s and stuff has been even stranger. About drugs in the inner city and everything.
But he's senile now, so
yeah. I just don't understand how he continues to do this weird hair touching with random little girls, and just it's like he gets a thrill off of doing that and getting away with it almost.
I mean,
he does so much.
I don't think so, because I just really think he's an old man and he's senile. He's your great grandfather.
Yeah. He's just from an era where that's okay, Yeah. He's from an era where women just had black pants because they wear pantyhose all day, and he had red lips, and we just didn't know where it came from. And then, by God, the Boy Scouts were everywhere, and that's the America I want to bring back. You know what I'm saying?
He has a stroke on the debate stage and bleeds from his eyeballs.
You see when he started bleeding out of his eye that one time?
Yeah, that's the one we're talking
bleeding
about.
From his eyeballs.
That's the same one.
He's literally in decay. And he had a brain aneurysm in the 80s, too. So he's not... That's like in his family.
And I just think that, once again, it's just in the... either is Democrat or Republican, doesn't really matter, because one side just says like, oh, we hate black people, and then the other side is like, more black female warlords, more of them. You know, it just, they're both two sides of the same coin. And I think, you know, Bernie Sanders, for all his flaws and the fact that he's not a communist or, you know, even remotely that, and by European standards, he's what, at most a moderate.
Yeah, he's like a French socialist.
The Irish, the Irish right wing is more progressive.
Yes, exactly. You know, but for all of his flaws, he still stands as basically the anti-establishment candidate.
Yeah.
And so it's just not against. It's against all policies from both sides to just not have him be elected president, which is why, you know, you see all this slander against him and basically the media blackout.
Well, and the only real reason why Bernie's important is because he pushes the dialogue more to the left.
Oh yeah, I
so
mean,
to speak.
have you seen? I mean, comparing the 2016 Democratic primaries to the today's primaries, the conversation, the subject that they speak about have completely shifted in Bernie Sanders' favors.
Mm-hmm.
You know, talking about universal health care, demilitarization, and, you know, the reduction of, you know, drug crime is a big thing now compared to what it was back then.
Well, yeah, it's just this consciousness that he's bringing to people. That's what's important. It's not really his party that's important, but it's just the movement and the ideas that are disseminating within America.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But yeah, does RT talk about the election primaries at all, or is that just sort of something that you mentioned on the sidelines?
We mentioned we cover the specific stuff concerning the run up to the election, but we don't cover like the primary debates or anything. That's more like CNN and MSNBC and stuff like that.
Okay.
But then you guys have like CNN and MSNBC in Russia, right? Or at least CNN?
Yeah, we watch it and see what they're up to.
So what's like the big news in Russia today then?
What do you mean,
in Russia? In today's modern Russia news, not Russia Today, the news station, what is like the big news that people are talking about then?
The people are talking about?
Or like the news station is talking about, like, what's something important?
Well, they're talking right now about the whole doping stuff. That's really big lately.
Really?
Is that the one that got the whole Russian team kicked off of the Olympics?
Yeah, so now they can't participate in, like, basically most international sporting events for the next 4 years.
Mm-hmm.
You know, to be honest, it's not my field of expertise. I don't know that much about it, but from what I've seen, you know, we're basically, you know, the idea is that the whole Russian team shouldn't be punished for individuals who are doping, you know, because it's not, there's absolutely no evidence that there's a government program sponsoring doping within, you know, members of entire teams and everything, you know. Like, it's going on an individual basis, and that happens in every country.
Yeah.
You know, and that's why it's pretty messed up that Russia's being singled out in that respect. But it's really nothing new. It's like just really political. You know, when the West has a chance to target Russia for something, they always get the short end of the stick. You know, same thing.
They
with,
as
like,
in Russians.
Yeah,
Russia.
yeah, as in Russia. Yeah.
Okay.
Like. You know, with the Skripal stuff, it's like...
What's the Skripal stuff?
You remember when the Skripals were there was like the poisoning in England and they blamed it on Russia, but there's like no evidence. I mean, like, they say that some Russian agents used a Soviet grade chemical agent that called what was it called?
It was nerve gas.
It was like a nerve agent, yeah, but it was like such a deadly nerve agent that like you could be exposed to microscopic amounts and be killed.
But at the same time, Germany, like, they traced it back even to like German labs.
Yeah, exactly.
Also, that stuff isn't stable for 50 years.
Well, another thing is that nobody died. Like, none of the people affected by this. Like, none of the Skripals died. They survived through the hospital, and now, like, where are they? We have no idea. They've fallen out of the media spotlight. Wonder why, you know? Yeah. And Russia the result was that Russia was sanctioned, and we still don't know anything about what happened.
Well, because it was a political move. I mean, it was probably just some British people that poisoned him anyway. That were on the payroll of MI5.
Yeah.
I mean, same thing in Ireland. Like, people who built the Omag bombs in like the 1990s, they were literally paid by the the MI5 literally with their own hands built those bombs for that fringe element of the IRA. They do these things.
Yeah, of course. I mean, I'm reading a book right now called The Enemy Within. It's about Margaret Thatcher's secret war against the miners in the 1980s when they had the big miners' strike of 1984, 1985, where Thatcher used the secret police to basically destroy the influence of the unions over the country. It was a decisive battle against working class power in the country. It's a very interesting book, written by a journalist who saw that all firsthand and everything.
I have to check that out.
Yeah, it's called The Enemy Within. It's named after what Margaret Thatcher called the miners. She called them the enemy within, because they were getting support from the Soviet Union.
If only she was 15 minutes late to getting dressed that one night in Ireland. I wish that happened.
Oh yeah, then she would have been.
She's been zooped out of zooped out of Ireland.
Yeah. Maggie Thatcher, Milk Snatcher.
Maggie Thatcher, Milk Snatcher.
Yeah.
All right, I think that's all the topics we wanted to cover tonight, right?
Yeah.
We passed the hour mark. I think we're pretty good for tonight.
Yeah, I mean,
discussion.
Yeah, I feel like an hour is a good length for the podcast.
Yeah. All right. Well, thank you, Don Corder, for coming in tonight.
It's a pleasure.
Mm-hmm. Is there anything that you want to plug at the end of our show tonight?
Yeah, my YouTube channel.
Yeah, I was just gonna say.
It's called The Revolution Report. You can find it on YouTube. I usually put my RT reports on that, and I have some original content there too. My latest one, I did some interviews with people in Moscow about who lived in the Soviet Union, what they thought about living under socialism, and it's become a really popular video, so people can check that out. And there will definitely be more content in the new year. I'm going to be dedicating a lot more effort to making more videos every month and everything. So definitely check it out.
So we'll link that in the description below. And remember, like and subscribe.
And subscribe.
You assholes.
All right, well, this is Red Star Radio. Thank you for listening. Have a good night, Merry Christmas, and a Happy New Year's.
What's all this talk about good and evil? Arbitrary forces, my good fellow. Too much of either will destroy us all. We can never have too much good. Trouble is, we've never had enough. We don't know. Example of a life of crime. I don't see how anyone can be an example in these criminal times. Well, you certainly are, robbing and murdering people. That's business. One murder makes a villain. Millions a hero. Numbers sanctify, my good fellow. My conflict is with man. Have you no remorse for your sin? Who knows what sin is? Born as it was from heaven, from God's fallen angel. Who knows the ultimate destiny it serves? Let me pray. As you wish. May the Lord have mercy on your soul. Why not? After all, it belongs to him.